What you got?
It was Hafsa. She was upset about the fact that his consummation was being done on her bed. This is from
Tayyib. Getting better. Even just gathering the opinions is a level of ilm. If you can't navigate through them, أنت لا تعرف الراجح منها. طبعا that's مقصود. But even just what? الوقوف على الأقوال. الوقوف على التفسيرات الواردة التي قيل في هذه الآية وهذه الآيات. هذا درجة. ففهمتني. As a طالب, as a باحث, just coming across being familiar, 3 views, 4 views. وهكذا. عرفت? And also that obviously helps you deal with problems. إشكالات. You're aware of it already. طيب بسم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So the next chapter in Kitab al-Talaq states باب انقضاء عدة المتوفى عنها زوجها وغيرها بوضع الحمل. Chapter 8, the period of Iddah for a widow or another lady comes to an end with the birth of the child. If a woman is pregnant, the author is saying here, Nawawi is saying here, a woman is pregnant. She's been divorced by her husband. Her iddah is when she gives birth, whether that is a day or 9 months. A woman who's a widow, or she's not yet a widow, she's pregnant, her husband dies. She is supposed to wait 4 months and 10 days to mourn her husband. Right? Let's say she was 9 months. Her belly was huge, about to burst, about to, deliver any day now, the doctors say. She's walking around, getting ready for delivery. She gives birth the next hour, the next day, the next week. The 4-month, 10-day period is what? Done. It's trumped. It's dwarfed by the delivery. In this game, the ace of spade, the trump card is the what? Is the baby. And not the amount of days or months. Everybody can understand this. The normal iddahs, 3 menstrual cycles, 3 pure cycles, 3 months, okay? 4 months, 10 days, etc., etc. All of those times will be dwarfed by what? Delivery. Not pregnancy, but what? Delivery. That's what's meant by that chapter heading. And there's a world of a difference between a woman waiting 4 months and 10 days, or a woman waiting a day or a week or an hour. Everyone understand this? Khayran inshallah ta'ala. So this, in Kitab al-Talaq, this chapter is one of the rulings of Iddah, of the Iddah, right? The Iddah periods. It's a clarification of one of the possible variables of divorce and of waiting. And a big possibility is very plausible for a woman to be divorced and pregnant. And as we explained with regards to the Sunnah Talaq Sunni is when he has not touched her in a pure state, or she's in the state of clear pregnancy. A man can have intercourse with his wife and divorce her the next day, the same day, in that same pure cycle if she's already pregnant. Murhu falyurajiha. Let's go back to that now. Ibn Umar's narration. He divorced her when she was in a what state? She was what? She was haid, or was she was pure in the end intercourse with her? Which of the two? She was menstruating. Clear? We sure about that?
When he divorced her, she was menstruating.
Okay. So therefore, he was not supposed to divorce her when?
While she was menstruating.
While she was menstruating. Nor was he supposed to divorce her when?
In a period of time where he had...
She's praying, she's fasting, but they did intimacy last night. And then the next day they got into an argument and he says, you're divorced. That's wrong. The only time in which a man is allowed to divorce a woman in a pure state in which he was intimate is if she's already pregnant. And that's because there's no confusion regarding the, that's one, but more importantly, the iddah. You gotta sit until you give birth. Well, there. Versus a man divorcing her when she's menstruating, she comes off of her mens, she had an irregular month, it's haywire. He divorced her when she was not mensing, she was pure. It has become clear to her that she was pregnant until such and such a month. Longer iddah, so on and so forth. It's confusion, let alone a longer time and a hardship, let alone who is the father, she marries a new man, etc., etc., etc. All that? All right? So therefore, a pregnant woman has an exception to that rule. That type of talaq bid'ah does not apply to a woman who's what? Pregnant. His wife is 4 months. He's still having intimacy with her. Understand? Clear or not? They were intimate last night. They got into an argument today. Blah, 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 whatever, this and that. Talaq. She's clearly 4 months pregnant. That will be what? Lawful or unlawful? Lawful because she's pregnant. And she's clearly pregnant. He doesn't know that she's pregnant. She's in a pure state. He had intercourse with her. He is not to divorce her in that state. Talaq bid'ah. Or she's menstruating and he didn't have intercourse with her since the last cycle. That's also talaq bid'ah. So everything that you learned, all of the stuff that you wrote down and charted out, etc., all of that, simple, you just add one piece to it, with exceptions to a pregnant woman. That's it.
Well,
you sure? And the gateless what?
The gateless gate.
Yeah, all you're doing is just what?
Adding one more.
One little yellow neon sticker thingy, except pregnant woman. That's it.
Quite.
You sure?
No.
How's the cup?
Getting full.
Tired. It's getting there. It's getting there. Getting there. Khairan, inshallah. All right. So therefore, the woman who is divorced and she's pregnant, or the woman who becomes a widow, her husband dies, her iddah is going to be over after she what? Gives birth. End of what? Story. All right. حديث سبيعة بنت الحارث أنها كانت تحت سعد بن خولة وهو من بني عامر بن لؤي وكان ممن شهد بدرا فتوفي عنها في حجة الوداع وهي حامل فلم تنشب أن وضعت حملها بعد وفاته فلما تعلت من نفاسها تجملت للخطاب فدخل عليها أبو السنابل بن بعكب أو ابن بعكك رجل من بني عبد الدار فقال لها ما لي أراك تجملت للخطاب ترجين النكاح فإنك والله ما أنت بناكح حتى تمر عليك 4 أشهر و10 قالت سبيعة فلما قال لي ذلك جمعت علي ثيابي حين أمسيت وأتيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فسألته عن ذلك فافتاني بأني قد حللت حين وضعت حملي وأمرني بالتزوج إن بدا لي. Listen carefully and thought I need that cup to be empty, bone dry. Alright? Hadith number 948. It's narrated, it says Subay'ah bintul Harith, that she was married to Sa'ad ibn Khawla, who was from the tribe of Bani Amr bin Lu'ay, and was one of those who fought in the battle of Badr. He died while she was pregnant during Hajjatul Wada. Soon after his death, she gave birth to a child. When she completed the term of delivery, i.e. she became clean, it says here, فَلَمْ تَنْشَبْ أَنْ وَضَعَتْ حَمْلَهَا بَعْدَ وَفَاتِهِ فَلَمَّا تَعَلَّتْ مِنْ نِفَاسِهَا. She became clean from her postnatal bleeding. She prepared herself for suitors. Abu Sanabil ibn Ba'kak, a man from the tribe of Bani Abduddar, called on her and said to her, "What? I see you dressed up for people to ask you in marriage. Do you want to marry? By Allah, you are not allowed to marry unless 4 months and 10 days have elapsed after your husband's death." Subay'ah in her narration said, "When he said this to me, I put on my dress in the evening and went to Allah's Messenger ﷺ and asked him about this problem. He gave me the verdict that I was free to marry as I had already given birth to my child, and ordered me to marry if I wished. So this woman, whose name is Subay'ah, was married to a man whose name was Sa'd. Sa'd ibn Khawla, he had a virtue, radiallahu anhu. He shared lineage with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if it's not all the way up to the top. And he also witnessed Badr, fought Badr, the battle of Badr, and the virtue of the Sahaba that fought in the battle of Badr, and what Allah said to them, so on and so forth, okay? She was pregnant, and Sa'd radiallahu anhu, he died during the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's farewell pilgrimage. So therefore, we know on the Sirah timeline that this event is towards the end of what? So it isn't abrogated. Laysa bimansukh. Understand? Amar, it hasn't been canceled. It's towards the end of all of the revelation. Hajjatul Wada. Towards the end. Towards the end. At that time, she said that she did what? She dolled herself up. She got pretty. Huh? Whatever that means. The clothes, makeup, her hair. She wanted to present herself to get married. And then who entered upon her? Abu Sanabil. What was his relationship to this woman? Was it her brother-in-law? Was it her brother? Al-Muhim, somebody saw her and he says, what is this? What's going on? You all dressed up and dialed up. Your husband just died. You wouldn't get married, huh? Turajin nikah? You hope for marriage? And he swore by Allah, he made an oath, Wallahi, you ain't getting married. As we would say in English, over my what? Over my dead body. Sahih? Right? Over my dead body, you're not getting married. Right? It's no way until you do what?
4 months and 10 days.
The full widow iddah. Then she said, okay, no problem. She went to get a what? Once again.
Verdict.
Nah. Something, the terminology we just used. She went to get a what? Trump card. No doubt. She was going to match him. His jealousy for her, for the deen, for what he knew. I'm going to get something bigger and heavier and drop it on you. Understand? She wanted to match him and beat what he was saying, and that could only be done by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh, Messenger of Allah, this has happened. I've delivered the child, etc., 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 etc. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what?
Your freedom.
Tafaddal. If you choose to do so, you can what?
Amen.
You can get married. Even though 4 months and 10 days have not passed. Everyone on the same page with the simplification of the hadith. The simplification. Alright? Everybody understand the simplification of the hadith or not? Alright, let's read the next hadith. Okay. Hadith 949. Hadith Salama عن أبي سلمة قال جاء رجل إلى ابن عباس وأبو هريرة جالس عنده فقال أفتني في امرأة ولدت بعد زوجها ب40 ليلة فقال ابن عباس آخر الأجلين قلت أنا وأولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن قال أبو هريرة أنا مع ابن أخي يعني أبا سلمة فأرسل ابن عباس غلامه كريبا إلى أم سلمة يسألها فقالت قتل زوج سبيعة الأسلمية وهي حبلى فوضعت بعد موته ب40 ليلة فخطبت فأنكحها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وكان أبو السنابل في من خطبها. Narrated Salama radiallahu anha, a man came to Ibn Abbas while Abu Hurairah was sitting with him and said, give me your verdict regarding a lady who delivered a baby 40 days after the death of her husband. Ibn Abbas said, this indicates the end of the 2 prescribed periods. I said, for those who are pregnant, their prescribed period is until they deliver their burdens in the Quran, Surah Al-Talaq. Abu Hurairah said, I agree with my cousin, Abu Salama. Then Ibn Abbas sent his slave, Qurayb, to Salama to ask her regarding this matter. She replied, the husband of Subay al-Aslamiyya was killed while she was pregnant, and she delivered a baby 40 days after his death. Then her hand was asked in marriage, and Allah's Messenger ﷺ married her to somebody, it says here. Abu Sanabil was one of those who asked for her hand in marriage. This hadith shows us is that the companions did what? What did the companions do? How do we simplify this hadith once again? The companions, they had a discussion and they what? اختلفوا. They differed. They differed among themselves. Some of the Sahaba said, is that what? She has to wait what?
She has to put down her pregnancy.
And others said,
The 40 days.
the widow's, Iddah. Everybody clear on this? And some of them mention a verse from the Quran. وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ, women who are bearing burdens, their ajal, their iddah is what? أَنْ يَضَعْنَا حَمْلَهُنَّ. It's for them to give birth. Okay? So they differed on this. So Ibn Abbas, once again, he went to seek the what? I don't understand this. The highest authority. Pay attention to the sunnah of the Sahaba and of the Salaf. They want to go right to the source. فِيهِ طَلَبُ الْإِسْنَادُ الْعَلِي. They wanted to cut out the middlemen. They wanted to go right to the fountain, right to the root of everything. And what did they do? They went to someone who had direct knowledge of this from the Messenger of Allah. And that was who? Salama. And what did Salama do? She told them the story of a woman whose name was Subay'a al-Aslamiyya. And that she got married after her husband was martyred, after her husband died, how many days?
40 days.
40. Not 4 months and
10 days.
10 days. After those 40 days had passed, right? The Prophet did what? He married her off to someone, proving that she did not have to wait 4 months and 10 days. But the only thing that she had to wait was her delivery of the child. Everybody understand this? And obviously the nifas, the postnatal bleeding, it is not something that will prevent a woman from getting married. On the contrary, it is lawful to marry a menstruating woman. It is lawful to marry a woman who has postnatal bleeding. Not necessarily recommended, but it is what? Lawful. If you marry a woman who's on her menstruation, obviously you cannot have vaginal intercourse with her. Right? You can touch her, kiss her, hug her, whatever else, blah, blah, blah. That's lawful. But you cannot have the traditional type of intercourse. Okay? Until she becomes clean, until she becomes pure. But her menstruating does not prevent the validity of the what?
Marriage.
Nikah. And this is a fa'idah. You find an imam or somebody saying, oh no, they can't get married, they have to wait. That's incorrect. There's no proof preventing them from getting married. The only thing that's haram is what? That specific type of intercourse as well. Right? Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? Now the recommendation of getting married to your wife, consummating the marriage that night, that day, don't waste time, unnecessary delay, etc. You have to put that on pause. But it isn't haram, and it may be an issue of convenience, families, traveling, schedule, whatever the case may be. We need this nikah. We need to do it right now. Understand? Everybody clear on this? Okay, let's say, for example, a woman's wali isn't her father. Her wali is her uncle. Or her wali is her son. She has an old enough son. Or her wali is her grandfather, okay? And that's a long discussion of who is the wali of a woman. And many people, they automatically think that the father is by default the wali, which isn't absolutely correct. Right? That the father is the automatic wali. That's not the correct understanding. There are many men in her family that can be her wali. And many scholars, they differ much over who has the priority of being her guardian for marriage. And they don't all necessarily say that it is her father. So for argument's sake, she was married before, or she had a baby before Islam, or whatever the case may be, her son's 17. Some scholars may say that her son has the greatest right to marry her off. Or her grandfather's alive, he's Muslim, he's righteous. They may say it's the what? The jed. Or someone may say the brother of her father, etc., etc., etc. So what's important is her son, her grandfather, her uncle, they're all in favor of this marriage, but the father say, no, you can't marry him because he's from a different race. You can't marry him because he's from a different race. That's the only reason why, right? And he says, I'm on my way to New York City. I'm going to stop this. So right now, the son is there, the uncle, everybody's on board. We need to do what? We need to perform this nikah before what?
He gets it.
No doubt. Once the marriage is done, he can huff, he can puff. But it's done. It's the contract, bro. We did it. You get the point? You understand? So he's coming to New York City tomorrow. She'll be off of her menstruation tomorrow. Why not wait till tomorrow, get married, do the menstruation? The son, the uncle, they said, no, we need to do this in the cat when? Right now. We need to make a position. We need to make a strong barricade before he comes. So therefore, the bare necessity for the validity of the nikah is that it's done even without what? Consummation. I don't think we're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
Everybody clear or not? Khayran inshallah. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. All right. Let's see what the Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala has to say regarding this chapter. Nawawi, may Allah have mercy upon his soul and reward him well on our behalf. He says, وإن عدتها انقضت وإنها حلت للزواج فأخذ بهذا جماهير العلماء من السلف والخلف فقالوا عدة المتوفى عنها بوضع الحمل حتى ولو وضعت بعد موت زوجها بلحظة قبل غسله انقضت عدتها وحلت في الحال للأزواج. هذا قول مالك والشافعي وأبي حنيفة وأحمد والعلماء كافة إلا رواية عن علي وابن عباس والسحنون المالكي أن عدتها بأقصى الأجلين وهي 4 أشهر و10 ووضع الحمل. He says, the hadith states that her iddah is done, meaning with the delivery of the baby. Okay? وَإِنَّهَا حَلَّتْ لِلزَّوَاجِ. And now she is on the market again. حَلَّتْ لِلزَّوَاج. She's now looking for suitors, and suitors are looking for her. Alright, we explained the Sahaba didn't live how we live. Years without being married. Single men, single women. My husband divorced me, spent 5-10 years without getting remarried. I'm not ready to move on. It's shameful to remarry. It's shameful to get married. You got married too quick. Your husband just passed away. You just got divorced. Why are you in a rush to get married? The cultural nonsense. The Salaf al-Salih, they didn't what? They didn't deal with that. Once a woman was done, it's time to get married. And that's because there's a need and there's a want for the woman to be with the man and the man to be with a woman. Everybody understand this? Our fitrah being a little tainted, at best, a little tainted, let alone a lot. And much of our fitrah has been tainted living in this society, in which the natural things that are supposed to be natural have become looked down upon, or become shameful, or something's wrong with you for fulfilling the natural sunnah of Allah's creation. Everybody understand or not? So therefore, her iddah is done. وَإِنَّهَا حَلَّتْ لِلزَّوَاجِ. It's now time to remarry. Know what he says about this part of the hadith and the hadiths in general, both hadiths? He says that the majority of the ulama, the overwhelming majority of the ulama, all adopted this view. They all took this opinion. This was their madhab. And that is, the widow, her iddah is finished when she gives birth. End of discussion. The vast majority of the Salaf and the vast majority of the Khalaf, they all held that view. He says, even if she gives birth a minute after her husband's death. Everyone understand this? The moment she gives birth, what? It's done. Okay? He says, قَبْلَ غَسْلِهِ. Before the husband is even washed. He died at what? 9:56. They're preparing his body. They're making the janazah preparations. She gave birth at 9:57 or 9:55. The moment she gave birth, she's now out of Iddah. The husband has not been washed. He has not been shrouded. He has not been prayed upon. Crying, mourning. None of that has been done. The moment she gives birth, she's now what? Free. She is
in the market.
And there you go. Clear. I would understand this. Moving forward. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, this was the view of Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmad, وَالْعُلَمَاءِ كَافَةً 99.9% of the ulama, they all adopted this view as if it's ijma. But it isn't. Okay? Borderline ijma. Borderline consensus. He says all of the scholars held this view except for one narration from Ali radiallahu anhu, and also obviously Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and also Sihnun, the Maliki jurist. They held the view is that her iddah is the longest of the two periods. So therefore, if her pregnancy, if she has 5 months left, then they say her iddah is over when?
After the 5
4 months and 10 days or the 5 months?
5 months.
The 5
5 months. If she only has 1 month left, then
Then it's the 4 months.
4 months and 10 days. Everyone understand this? That was their view. A small number of ulama, they held that view. He then says, وَوَضُ الْحَمْلِ, so the 4 months and 10 days and the delivery. إما روي عن الشعبي والحسن وإبراهيم النخعي وحماد أنها لا يصح زواجها حتى تطهر من نفاسها وحجة الجمهور حديث السبيعة المذكور ومخصص لعموم قوله تعالى والذين إلى آخر الآية ومبين أن قوله تعالى وولاة الأحمال إلى آخر الآية عام في المطلقة والمتوفى عنها وأنه على عمومه. He then says that others from the Salaf al-Salih, such as Sha'bi, Hassan al-Basri, Ibrahim al-Nakhai, Hamad and others, they held the view you cannot marry this woman until she's done with her postnatal bleeding. And the majority of the ulama say nay. The moment she delivers, it is lawful to marry her. Consummation is a different discussion. Everybody understand this? Moving forward. And he mentions the ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah about men who die and leave behind women and how long those women are to wait before they remarry. And also the verse from Surah Al-Talaq with regards to women who are pregnant, and that generality takes precedence over the other type of generality. So there's generality in a widow waiting how long? 4 months and 10 days. Allah doesn't specify pregnant or not. A widow is to wait how long? 4 months and 10 days. That's general. And Allah said in another place in the Quran, women who are pregnant, their iddah is
Until they put down their pregnancy.
until they deliver. So that generality dominates the other. Everybody understand this? And there are many, many examples of this in Islam with regards to comparative fiqh or fiqh in general. The Prophet ﷺ says when you enter the masjid, do not pray until you sit, and do not sit down until you pray. And another hadith says after Asr, do not pray. Right? Before Maghrib, don't pray. Don't make any prayers. So which of the two generalities do we take? It's an hour before Maghrib. Do I make the 2 rak'ah or do I just sit down? You understand this? There are many examples in which there are 2 texts that both have generality, and the scholars differ over which of the 2 is more applicable. Regardless of the answer, but you get the clash, the umum, and then the what? The umum. Clear? So one verse says widows are to wait for how long? 4 months, 10 days. That's general, correct? And it doesn't specify pregnant or not, but it says what? Widows. You with me? And the other ayah says women who are pregnant, their iddah is when they? That's general, and doesn't specify widows or not. All there. Moving forward. قال الجمهور وقد تعارض عموم هاتين الآيتين وإذا تعارض العمومان وجب الرجوع إلى مرجح لتخصيص أحدهما وقد وجد هنا حديث السبيعة المخصص ل4 أشهر و10 وأنها محمولة على غير الحامل وما الدليل على الشعب وموافقه فهو ما رواه مسلم في الباب أنها قالت فأفتاني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بأني قد حللت حين وضعت حملي وهذا تصريح بانقضاء العدة بنفس الوضع فنحتاج بقوله فلما تعلت من نفاسها أي طهرت من فالجواب أن هذا إخبار عن وقت سؤالها لا ولا حجة فيه وإنما الحجة في قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنها حلت حين وضعت ولم يعلل بالطهر من النفاس. And then he goes on to refute those other opinions with regards to there are 2 generalities in the Quran, and the hadith of Subay'ah clearly specifies with regards to the widow giving birth. So that is the trump card. And that when a woman is, when she is given birth, she's now allowed to get married. And refuting Sha'bi and those others, the Salaf who said that she has to wash. She has to be done of her nifas. That she can't be having postnatal bleeding. Because the hadith said she became lawful. After she, فَلَمَّا تَعَلَّتْ مِن نِفَاسِهَا, when she washed up, she was done her nifas, then she asked. But that wasn't when she became lawful. When she became allowed to get married. So in brief, a woman who's pregnant, even though she's a widow, her iddah is done when she gives birth. Number two, you're allowed to marry a woman who is menstruating, a woman who has postnatal bleeding. You cannot make that type of consummation, but the marriage is valid. That's in brief. Everybody clear on the same page? No. All right, moving forward. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala then says, قال العلماء من أصحابنا وغيرهم سواء كان حملها ولدا أو أكثر كامل الخلقة أو ناقصها أو علقة أو مضغة فتنقضي العدة بوضعه إذا كان فيه صورة خلق آدمي سواء كانت صورة خفية تختص النساء بمعرفتها أم جلية يعرفها كل أحد ودليله إطلاق سبيعة من غير سؤال عن صفة حملها. He says that our comrades, our proponents, our friends, right? Our associates, ashabuna, the Shafi'i scholars, and others, they say it doesn't matter how she gives birth. If she gives birth to one child or twins or triplets or quadruplets, matters not. And it doesn't matter whether kamil al-khilqa, the baby is perfectly formed or deformed. Missing an arm, missing a leg, unfortunately, blind, missing ears, etc. Right? Complete or deficient. Alaqatan, a lump of flesh. Mudghatan, chewed flesh, matters not. Fatanqadil iddatu, the iddah is done when she gives birth, when she releases her load, when she delivers her load. Right? As long as it is suratu khalq adimi, it is in the form of a human being, not a humanoid. Humanoid, adami, right? So if she gives birth to something extraterrestrial, right, then it's something different. He clearly said adamiyin. You with me or not? For the brothers who believe in aliens or other things like that, Allahu Alam. He says, regardless whether it's something hidden and only known to women or something that everybody knows, she is out of the iddah. And the proof for this is how Subay'ah said she gave birth. And she didn't specify living, dead, full, complete, deformed, beautiful, all of the toes and fingers or not. For him now. Right, moving forward. So obviously this is pertaining to, or one may ask the question with regards to a miscarriage. A woman has a miscarriage and she's a widow. Is she allowed to get married? If she had a miscarriage, unfortunately, or she gave birth to a stillborn child, she's no longer pregnant anymore. She's no longer what? Pregnant. Let alone with modern technology. It isn't one baby that came out, one baby that's still in the womb. Everyone understand this? Let alone back in the day, even without the modern means of technology, the people had skills in their hands, their eyes. They could feel, they knew, they could sense with regards to if a woman had twins or not. Skilled physicians. All right, moving forward. حان وقت الأذان؟ ولا لسه؟
3 دقائق.
للأذان ولا للإقامة؟ طيب, all right, moving forward. All right, let's take some fawaid from the hadith. That's the end of Nawawi's discussion. The first fa'idah from the hadith, our fawaid, is that the virtue of a man does not prevent the going forth of the sunnah. The virtue of a man doesn't stop and change the rules. Her husband was virtuous. He was Badri. Despite all of that, once she gave birth, it was khalas. Oh, he's Badri. Wait for him. Give him his haqq. Mourn over him the full time. Nothing personal when it comes to Allah's rules. فضل الرجل لا يمنع من مضي السنة وتنفيذ الأحكام. طيب, no matter how virtuous or noble you may be. And that's a religious virtue, let alone my tribe or my race. I'm noble. So you can't do this to me. You can't take this haqq from me. You can't punish me. You can't divorce my daughter. The divorce didn't count because I'm what? Because I'm noble. I'm a noble person. In the dunya, not even in the deen. We say none of that what? Matters when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen. And this is very reoccurring, very, very widespread problem. People thinking that they're so good that they're above Allah's deen. And that the rulings don't apply because of their blood and because of their ancestry. And I'm sure each of you can think of a story or two with yourselves or with others which you ran into this problem. Moving forward. Next faida from this hadith is that you never know what's going to take place. Death can come anytime to anyone. You never know what's going to happen. What plans did they have? What plans did he have? Did he know his wife was pregnant? My wife is going to give birth to a great warrior, a son, a beautiful daughter. You never know when death is going to come to you. Now this part of the hadith says, فَلَمَّا تَعَلَّتْ مِن نِفَاسِهَا تَجَمَّلَتْ لِلْخُطَّابِ. That she adorned herself and she beautified herself for the khuttab, for the suitors. What does that mean, Tariq?
That she
كيف يعني؟
no.
كيف يعني تجملت آدم؟ مش هذا الكلام يا أخي. غاب. من غاب خاب وأخذ نصيبه الأصحاب. من غاب خاب وأخذ الفوائد من أصحابه. كيف تجملت يعني؟ كيف هذا؟ إيش معنى تجملت يعني للخطاب؟ وضعت مكياج كيف؟ برزت لهم كيف؟ إشكال ولا لا؟ What does it mean that she adorned herself for the suitors? Without hijab, she took her hijab off? Huh? Sure? رؤية شرعية, the lawful look. But that's only for someone who's يعني sitting down with her. It says تجملت للخطاب. She's back in the market. طيب. What's meant by that? Is this hadith a proof that some of the sahabiyat didn't cover their hands and faces? Is that a dalil? طيب كيف يعني? How she beautify herself with an niqab on? Wearing new clothes. Okay. كيف يعني? So if she wore new clothes, what type of hijab? Does that mean you can wear different types of hijabs? Colorful hijabs? Mahmoud, is a problem or not? Yeah. طيب. Do we even understand the problem or not?
No.
Fadda, above the weather.
Can we assume that there's a difference in the way that married women would dress as opposed to single women? And that she adorned herself a way that
There's a difference that a married woman dressed versus a woman that was on the market, looking for a husband, husband looking for her. That's a good answer. And one may say that tajammalat, it doesn't mean that she dressed in some type of crazy way or crazy colors, or it doesn't mean that. But she dressed like a woman who isn't married. In different cultures, they clearly see this young woman is single, this is an older woman, right? Different communities, different religions have that as well. How a woman with children dresses is not like how a single woman dresses, even though it's still modest. Good answer, but still not totally convincing.
Like she's alone?
She's alone. Tajammalat lil khutabi. He came, he entered upon her. He saw her and he immediately knew that she was looking forward to what?
marriage.
So obviously it was something that was obvious. Something that was plain. He was a mahram, but still, she got pretty. She dialed herself up for the men. Those that were coming to the marketplace to find a wife.
Maybe she put like jewelry.
Maybe jewelry. So that would mean that a woman can wear jewelry and show it to non-mahram men. هذا أنت رجعتنا للإشكال. بدل أخرجنا أنت دخلتنا في الإشكالية. عرفت؟ طيب
But then I would
تفضل
say
تفضل
that
تفضل بسم الله.
I would say that just looking at it in black and white, the fact that he recognized instantly that she was looking for marriage, she beautified herself in a way that we would view as problematic, but it is beautifying herself in the way a woman would beautify herself to attract a man.
So is that lawful? That's the problem. That's what we're
That's
in.
the question, right?
Hey, right, let's put that on pause for a second. We'll come back to that, perhaps. Cliffhanger. كما يقولون. المهم, as he said, رؤية الشرعية, whether it was this or that, this clearly proves the permissibility that when you are trying to marry a woman, that you can see certain things. And that you're supposed to see her in a manner other than the normal, average way. You understand? You're sitting down with her house, her father, so on and so forth. You understand? So you want to see what you're. I need to see the product, right? I need to see what I'm buying, right? I need to see everything. You talking about spending the rest of my life with this woman, but you can't see nothing from her. Her hands, her face, nothing. There she is in a corner in a dark shadow.
How is she beautiful?
Take it or not. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? When you're trying to get married and you're allowed to see her, what can you see from her? And how can you see that woman? And what state and in what manner? Everybody clear on this? That's a long discussion. We're going to stop here. That's more than enough. Confusion. حسبنا التشويش. خلاص. نترككم خليك على الكليفهانجر Let's leave it with you guys' minds thinking. Inshallah ta'ala. Perhaps you do more research. I know the last one that probably make a dua against me. This guy did it again, huh? خيرا إن شاء الله وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.